I'm delighted to be here today to talk about food sustainability, climate, and finance. Over the past few years, and especially since COVID, we all have increasingly realized that global food security is fragile. Shocks, wars, pandemics can easily disrupt the global supply food chain. Other structural factors, such as global population growth, climate change, water scarcity, soil degradation, as well as labor costs, are putting farming under immense stress in all regions of the world. At the same time, consumers want to eat better quality food. They want food which is locally grown. They want food which is easily traceable. And so they expect the agri-food system to transform itself radically beyond mere change in farming. And this is why tech and digital transformation is so important. And it makes farming evolve from traditional farming to precision agriculture with increased efficiency. But how can we balance agri-food tech with sustainability, and what role can finance play? To talk about these issues, we are extremely privileged to have with us Jeremy Coller. Jeremy, a warm welcome. You are the Chief Investment Officer and Managing Partner of Coller Capital, one of the world's largest independent firms dedicated to private equity secondaries. You are also a philanthropist and the founder 10 years ago of FAIR, and you will tell us what FAIR is about. It stands for Farm Animal Investment Risk and Return Initiative. It's a prestigious investor network focusing on sustainability risk and opportunities in the global food system. So my first question for you, roughly 2/3 of consumers are now saying that they feel very strongly about locally grown food. So they are reshaping the geography of food. But as capital and technology pivot to serve this demand, what would you say is the greatest structural risk to the global food system?
It's great to see so many people in the audience. The greatest risk to our food is that it's unsustainable. You know, we're feeding 80 billion animals a year for 8 billion humans. And it's the largest user of fresh water in the world, largest user of antibiotics in the world, risk of zoonotics, as we know. It's more greenhouse gases than the whole transport sector. So there's a big risk to, an unsustainable risk to what we've done with our food system.
Okay, and is it why you funded the FAIR initiative 10 years ago? Can you tell us a little bit more about what it is? And also I've realized that you wrote a paper criticizing the green revolution. Does it mean that you think that tech in agri-food does not have any role to play?
So FAIR, Farm Animal Investment Risk and Return, is the fastest growing sustainable investment network in the world, over $93 trillion. And basically what it does is it's all about materiality, not morality. It bridges the knowledge gap for investors, and the investors engage where they're interested. It's a neutral network. It's just about bridging the knowledge gap. And as I said, it's over $93 trillion. And you asked about technology, and am I against it because we wrote a report about criticizing the green revolution. And what's interesting, I think, about that is, no, technology is vital. We need to feed our citizens, etc. And we need to secure food security. So, NEOM has invested in Liberation Labs. There's 3D printing of meat. There's bioengineering of soil to reduce carbon. And technology is really vital for growing a better food system. The issue is uncontrolled capitalism has led to this unsustainable investment in just producing more chickens, and the zoonotics we're getting from that is we're having to destroy millions and millions of chickens a year because of zoonotics.
So, what?
Avian flu epidemic is endemic in the US, particularly.
How do you think finance, and especially sustainable finance, can play a role in redirecting and shaping the food revolution?
Yeah, so it's a whole ecosystem of policymakers, business groups, but very, very powerful are investors. Investors control all the companies they're invested in. And I think investors are concerned that, for instance, with antibiotics, that there could be a class action, or regulations could change, or there could be a carbon tax on meat. So for investors in particular, it's all about sustainable profits.
Great. And so do you think that there is where do you think the focus should be for investors in this agri-food space? What do you see, for instance, all the different investing firms in your network?
So the network are interested in exploring whether there should be regenerative agriculture, or should technology be included so that we make sure we have food security. There's all these alternative proteins from, we've got a lot of choices now. We can grow meat in the labs. We've got 3D printed steaks that are being sold. And there's cheese that is cultured, that is exactly the same as cheese. But we don't have to do this using animals. We can actually do all this in laboratories and in warehouses, etc.
Okay, so the network is really about focusing on investments which do not cause any harm to animals.
No, no. Investors are neutral.
Okay, right.
So we don't care about animals in a way. Well, it's very interesting because if you're building a textile factory, business people are very interested in protecting their employees. But an investor is fairly neutral on that. The reason we care that there are fire exits and foundations of a building is because it's better business. There's reputational risk, there's insurance risk, and the risk of being shut down because of poor quality. And it says something about actually the management of a company if they're not taking care of that sort of infrastructure.
Issues. Yeah. No, it's very interesting. I work for a asset manager in Paris. Well, it's a global asset manager called Mirova. It's part of Natixis Investors. And we also invest in the agri...
Minerva.
Mirova.
Mirova.
Yeah.
And what does Mirova do exactly?
So it's a global asset manager. It's a pioneer of sustainable finance in Europe. And we invest in all asset classes, including public and private assets. And in the private assets, we have different investments, including a lot in infrastructure renewables. But also we have a fund related to land degradation and agriculture. And I was hearing what you were saying, and I think the scope of the agri-food revolution is so big that it actually requires a mix of technological solutions and precision farming and all the the new solutions that we have on innovation side. But at the same time, it also requires that we really work with soil and in a localized manner. And so I think there are different solutions according to different regions.
Yeah.
Would you agree? And is it also what you're seeing as part of your network? Because I guess you have investors from all over the world.
Yeah, so, well, just to make a point about technology, if I may, we look at technology and they're talking about putting gas masks on cows. And there are a lot of people telling other people to eat insects. But what we've got to do, I think, is if we look at the root cause of the way we've grown our food, you get a very different picture. So we had a wonderful revolution in the 1930s, 1940s, the Green Revolution, where we discovered or invented chemical fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides, and genetically modified wheat, genetically modifying grains, etc. And that created an abundance of cereals. And we actually solved, in the US, we solved hunger in the 40s. And we did it with such effect that as the farmers grew richer, there was such an abundance of cereals that suddenly prices fell again and you had farmers going bust. And so they discovered, at the same time we discovered antibiotics, and what we thought we could do, the farmers thought, well, we're creating all these cereals, but we don't have consumers for it. Now that we've discovered antibiotics, why not give them to other animals and to cows and chickens, etc., and fish, and we can continue supplying our cereals rather than looking at should there be regulation to help us with a roadmap of what is sustainable. And so, technology can work both ways. But if you look at the root cause, technology can really benefit, like the Green Revolution, but it needs to be regulated.
So you think regulations can help? And
it needs to be a whole ecosystem of policymakers, the businesses themselves, the owners of those businesses, and consumers.
Consumers. Let's talk about consumers. So as I mentioned at the beginning, consumers want more locally grown food, healthier food, better quality. Is it what you're seeing in terms of trends worldwide, and is there a difference across regions? And what do you think traceability? What role can traceability play?
First of all, I think it's middle class. Is that people that can afford to eat better food, etc. I think there's a lot of the population in the world that just wants protein. And actually, it's weaker and weaker protein because it's been manufactured. So once again, technology. You can put in bioextracts into the proteins to make it better. And I forgot the question.
No, I was
traceability.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So what's actually, I think, very interesting. We've had a lot recently on ultra-processed foods and a lot of concern about ultra-processed foods. But that actually starts from when the animal is killed. And I think a lot of us are now concerned about ultra-processed animals and, the antibiotics with girls menstruating at a younger age, at 9, etc., at cancer, at obesity, at diabetes, etc. And I think there's an initiative we're going to start an initiative on, with blockchain, you can have provenance, and if we can have traceability, I think we'd all like to know: are we eating a whole load of antibiotics or hormones Or is there like I think one of the suggestions I would make is on labeling on meat and dairy products. What's gone into these products, and and I think just that transparency, which we're able to do now, the technology's there to do it, could be a demand that consumers will make in the future. And that will affect demand on factory farmed food. Also, subsidies are going very heavily on producing chickens, for instance. So millions and millions of chickens are slaughtered every year, but they're replaced by the taxpayer in the US, basically subsidizing and replacing those birds. So there's not really a true cost of these proteins. And there is a new movement to look at instead of looking at silos about antibiotics or climate or water or deforestation, it's looking at the whole sustainability of our food system and the solutions we can have. The solutions are there for world hunger. We're feeding 80 billion animals a year for 8 billion humans, as I said at the beginning. That is unsustainable as our populations grow.
Yeah. So when you think about the future of food,
The what?
when you think about the future of food,
Yeah.
what is your vision? How do you think it's evolving?
It's in our hands. We have choices. We can put fish on land, or we can grow fish in the lab, or we can just say we'll go back to the future in the sense of just eating less and better meat.
And
we've got all these choices that we can make.
And what do you think will be the key issues affecting the global food systems? Do you think the key problems, challenges?
The key challenges are it's affecting fertility, it's affecting, it's affecting all these horsemen of the apocalypse, as it were. So the real challenge is to, in terms of as we've gone from global to national, is food security. That's a very big challenge, and a challenge of, for humanity's sake, of being on top of the type of food we eat and what we want to grow.
And do you see different regions of the world being affected differently?
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. Brazil, for instance, they seem a pariah, but actually, the work they're doing on technology, for instance, crop turnover, and then adding bioextracts to the soil to reduce the carbon content. And they could be, for the number of production of animals, they could be 5 times larger in deforestation, but they're using technology to reduce their impact on deforestation, etc. I think we're all becoming aware of it. I'm very hopeful.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Jeremy, and please join me in thanking him.
Thank you.
Thanks for the great conversation.
Thank you, the lot of